Greetings, kindred friend. Let us spend a truly quiet moment right now. Imagine an early morning when you are standing by the familiar kitchen sink, quietly looking out at the backyard garden through the glass window. Pale yellow sunlight slips through the tree branches, gently resting on your hands that bear the marks of time. The world out there seems to be slowing down. This is exactly the silent harvest season of life, where every moment carries a weight of contemplation. At this stage, we begin to realize a liberating truth. True strength no longer lies in forcing or flashy power. It is not about how many races you have won or how much recognition you possess from the world. Strength right now lies in the stability of the mind, the ability to keep the lake of consciousness always calm, even when the winds of loss are still blowing. Do you ever wonder why some people enter their twilight years with a strangely radiant and peaceful demeanor, regardless of how many ups and downs they have gone through? While many others sink in the mist of anxiety and regret? The Buddha has given us the key to decode this paradox. He taught that pain is inevitable, but suffering is a choice. Engrave this truth into your heart. Pain is a part of life, but suffering can be completely transformed. Pain is part of life, but suffering can be transformed. In tonight's journey, we will together explore the power of a still mind through 7 lessons of awakening. These are the anchors helping you stand firm amidst the swirling current of life, so that every year and month from now on is the most glorious time of your soul. Let your mind rest, because your journey of awakening officially begins here. Lesson 1. When suffering becomes a wise teacher. We are born and raised in a culture teaching that suffering is a mistake, an active misfortune that must be run away from or hidden at all costs. At this age, when losses in health or loved ones strike, your mind very easily falls into a deep pit of resentment. You ask yourself, why me? Why is life so cruel? However, the wisdom of the Buddha gives you a liberating perspective. Suffering is not an enemy coming to destroy you. Suffering is actually a strict but deeply compassionate teacher. To understand this, let us contemplate together the parable of the 2 arrows. Imagine you are standing in the middle of a field and are suddenly struck by an arrow flying into your flesh. The physical pain at that time is unavoidable. That is the law of reality. But right after that, your mind begins to scream, "So unfair! Who shot me? This wound will cripple me." Exactly those anxious, judging, and resisting thoughts are called the second arrow. The Buddha taught that we cannot stop the first arrow, that is aging, illness, and separation. But the second arrow is entirely shot into us by ourselves. Engrave this truth. The second arrow hurts us more deeply than the first arrow. The second arrow wounds us more deeply than the first. I remember the story of Mrs. Mina, a widow I once met at a quiet monastery. After her husband passed away, Mina lived for 3 years in torment. She not only hurt because of his absence, but also hurt because she blamed herself for not taking better care of him. She was shooting thousands of second arrows into her own bleeding heart. An old monk looked straight into her eyes and said, "Mina, you are trying to grip tightly onto a broken, dry branch so as not to fall into the abyss. But exactly that gripping action is what is making your hands bleed. Let go of that branch. The ground right beneath your feet is inherently very safe." In that moment, Mina realized she did not need to fix the past. She only needed to stop fighting the present. Tonight, I invite you to perform a powerful shift in perception. Every time a pain arises, instead of asking, "Why me?" gently whisper the question, "What lesson is this teaching me?" Is it teaching you patience? Teaching you compassion toward yourself? Or teaching you to cherish more what is still present? When you shift from a victim mindset to a student mindset, your nervous system will receive a signal of ultimate peace. You are no longer fighting, you begin to understand. Let the first arrow rest in place on the wound and bravely break all second arrows of self-blame. The night is deep. Allow your heart to loosen its attachment. You deserve to rest, not because everything is perfect, but because you are wise enough to smile even at the flaws of your life. Lesson 2. Practicing stillness. When the mind is a self-island. Dear friend, listen to the wind softly whistling through the door crack or the rustling of the tree branch outside the bedroom right now. Our lives, especially when stepping into the twilight years, are often compared to a turbulent ocean. There are beautiful sunny days, but there are also unannounced storms, unpleasant news about health, a sudden change in the family, or simply a feeling of loneliness enveloping in the middle of the night. Our instinct is to find ways to run away from the storm or brace ourselves to quell the waves. However, there is a sacred truth that Buddhist wisdom wants to message you. You cannot make the storm disappear, but you can absolutely find stillness right in the eye of the storm. I want to tell you about Raymond, a 70-year-old man who spent his whole life managing everything around him. When his wife of nearly half a century passed away, Raymond felt like a boat shattered amidst the ocean. He lost sleep for months, his mind swirling in unanswerable questions. Raymond thought he needed a miracle to stop hurting, but the Zen master taught him something completely different, the art of stopping. The master told him, "Raymond, you do not need to chase sadness away. Consider that sadness as a cloud passing across the sky of your consciousness." Borrowing the teaching of Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh, emotions come and go like clouds in a windy sky. Mindful breathing is my anchor. Raymond began practicing sitting still daily. He did not sit to forget his late wife. He sat to create a tolerant space for his pain. He realized a liberating truth. Stillness is not the absence of pain. Stillness is the space for pain to exist without collapsing your soul. Stillness is not the absence of pain. It is the space for pain. Tonight, right now, while lying under the warm blanket, I invite you to perform a short centering ritual with me. Close your eyes. Do not try to chase away anxieties or physical aches. Take a very deep breath through the nostrils. Feel the cool air going all the way down to the lower abdomen. And exhale very slowly, very softly, through parted lips. Imagine you are a sturdy lighthouse on the coast. Waves may crash hard against the cliff. Wind may howl around, but the light on the top of the tower is always still and radiant. With every inhale, whisper, "I am here." With every exhale, whisper, "I am calm." When you learn how to rely on the breath, you are building a self-island that no storm can violate. Let this stillness envelop you, putting you into sleep in absolute reassurance, because you know that, no matter what tomorrow brings, you always possess a peaceful harbor right inside your own chest. Lesson 3. The gentle power of discipline. When freedom lies in regularity. In the modern world, when mentioning the word discipline, we often immediately think of strict rules, pressures forcing ourselves to comply mechanically. We consider discipline the enemy of freedom. However, dear friend, after age 60, when work and social structures gradually recede, exactly the absence of order is what makes your mind most easily agitated. Without an anchor of regularity, our souls are very easily drifted into the ocean of sluggishness and negative thought streams. In Buddhist wisdom, discipline or morality is not chains, it is harmony. He taught about the Noble Eightfold Path, where every action, every word, and every thought is placed in an awakened rhythm. Discipline is actually the art of preservation, helping us not to be swept away by toxic old habits. Listen to the story of Mrs. Helen, an 80-year-old woman whom I once had the fate to accompany. After retiring, Helen used to feel her life was like an empty room, purposeless. She started waking up late, eating carelessly, and spending the whole day worrying about age. Things only changed when Helen decided to establish a simple early morning ritual. Every morning, when the sun had just begun to bloom, Helen slowly brewed a cup of jasmine tea, lit a small candle, and sat still in 15 minutes of silence. She did not sit to achieve anything lofty. She sat to meet herself again before the world out there began to bustle. Helen told me that those 15 minutes were exactly her anchor. Even if that day she had bone and joint aches or unpleasant news, she still felt steady because she had a sanctuary of regularity. Dear friend, understand this liberating truth. Discipline is not control. Discipline is exactly compassion toward yourself. Discipline is not control. It is compassion toward yourself. Discipline at this age is not forcing yourself to run 10 miles, but discipline to not let the mind fall into complaining. It is discipline to keep the living space tidy, so every meal is a ritual cherishing life. When you maintain wholesome habits gently, you are sending an ultimate safety message to the nervous system. Everything is fine. I am still mastering my house. Tonight, as you prepare to sink into sleep, I invite you to try sketching an anchor for yourself for tomorrow morning. Not too much is needed, just a small action that you commit to performing an awakening. Discipline is exactly how you remind your soul that you are precious and your life deserves to be cherished in every smallest rhythm. Sleep in the belief that this gentle regularity will bring you back to the steadiest peace. Lesson 4. Purifying consciousness. Shedding what weakens the mind. Dear friend, try being quiet and looking into the climate inside your mind right now. There is a silent truth that we often ignore. The strength of the mind is not only built by what we take in more of, but more importantly, it is preserved by what we bravely throw away. In Buddhist wisdom, this is exactly the practice of renunciation, letting go of the strings, tying our souls to fatigue. Tonight, I want to identify with you 3 hidden thieves that frequently sneak into the temple of our minds after age 60. The first thief is the habit of complaining. Do you ever realize that? Every time we complain about the weather, about joint pain, or about the heartlessness of children, we are performing an act of rehearsing for pain? Modern neuroscience has proven a truth that the Buddha spoke thousands of years ago. What you repeat in your thoughts will create the structure for your brain. When you complain, you are directly teaching the brain to only look for darkness amidst the brilliant daytime. Every complaint is like a drop of acid dripping onto the spiritual lake surface, muddying its inherent clarity. Tonight, allow your lips and mind to rest from resentful words, to make room for the breath to harmonize with the stillness of the universe. The second thief is addiction to a narrow comfort zone. At this age, the fear of stumbling or pain often urges us to seek absolute comfort. We hesitate to go out, hesitate to change habits, and gradually shrink ourselves into a small world. But you know what? Life only truly follows its law when there is a flow of movement. A bowl of water left still for too long will become murky. A branch that no longer stretches itself before the wind will soon wither. Excessive comfort is exactly a kind of anesthetic paralyzing lucidity. The wisdom of old age does not take root from enjoyment, it takes root from us daring to face small daily difficulties with a tolerant smile. And the last thief, the most subtle one, is the excuse named, I am already old. I am too old to learn new things. I am too old to change this habit. Dear friend, this is the most toxic whisper the mind can create. In the impermanent flow of Buddhism, every inhale is a beginning, every exhale is an end. You are not framed within any age number at all. As long as the heart beats, it means the universe is still inviting you to evolve. Do not let old age become a cage imprisoning your soul's ability to be reborn. Engrave this ultimate truth of the world, honored one, into your heart. What you dwell upon, you become. What you dwell upon, you become. If you spend the whole night contemplating weakness, you will wake up with a sluggish body. But if tonight you choose to let go of complaints, abandon attachment to the narrow comfort zone, and shed the old cloak of excuses, you will be amazed to see your mind suddenly become strangely expansive. The true strength of a mature soul does not lie in how much we hold on to, but lies in whether we are wise enough to set down how many unnecessary burdens. Tonight, I invite you to perform a final cleaning ritual. Imagine you are holding a broom of mindfulness, gently sweeping the rubbish of anxiety and complaining out of your temple. Let the inner space be empty, be pure, so tomorrow you walk amidst ordinary life with clear eyes and a courageous heart, no longer entangled. Sleep in the likeness of a person who has truly mastered their own house. Lesson 5. Turning brokenness into good soil. Transforming failure. Into growth. Observe how we often treat our mistakes right this moment. Is there a part of you that believes, after 60 years of life, you supposedly should know everything and are not allowed to be clumsy anymore? We fear the feeling of being considered weak, fear new efforts being unsuccessful, and so we choose to stand still. We consider failure as a final sentence, an indelible black mark on the tapestry of our lives. However, in the insightful view of the Buddha, success and failure are only two sides of a coin named impermanence. He taught that no glory is eternal, and also no failure is an endpoint. Everything is in a state of flowing and transforming. When you label an experience as a failure, you are inadvertently freezing the flow of life. I want to tell you the story of Louis, a retired engineer at age 67. Louis dedicated his whole life to numbers and absolute precision. When leaving work, he decided to fulfill his childhood dream of learning oil painting. But the first days holding the brush were a torture to his self-esteem. His hands, inherently used to controlling giant machines, now trembled. The color patches on the canvas looked truly smudged and messy. Louis felt ashamed. He told himself, "How ridiculous. I am this old and still ruin a simple painting. I am indeed a failure." The turning point came to Louis when he went to see an old monk gardening. Seeing the monk use rubbish, rotten leaves, and leftover food to compost fertilizer for the radiant rose bushes, Louis suddenly realized a liberating truth. The monk said, "Louis, do you see? Without these smelly and rotting things, that flower would never have enough nutrients to bloom so brilliantly. Do not throw away your ruined paintings. They are exactly the nutrients for later wisdom." Louis returned to the studio with a completely new mindset. He was no longer afraid of clumsy brushstrokes. Every time the color smudged, he smiled and told himself, this is exactly fertilizer soil for creativity." He realized failure is not the enemy of beauty, but its premise. Dear friend, understand this radiant truth. Failure is not the opposite of growth. Failure is exactly the fertile soil for that growth to sprout. Failure is not the opposite of growth. It is its soil. Tonight, I invite you to perform a sacred reconciliation with all mistakes in the past and even clumsiness in the present. Look at the times you failed with the eyes of a wise gardener. Do not chase them away. Do not be ashamed of them. Take a deep breath. Feel the warmth spreading in your chest and whisper, "I appreciate every crack in my life," because that is where the seed of wisdom is beginning to stretch. When you stop defining yourself through the results of right and wrong, you will see yourself become boundlessly expansive. Old age is not the time to stop to protect an illusory perfection. Old age is exactly when you are allowed to fail in the most dignified way, because you understand that every time you stumble is a time the life sap in you is refined. Sleep in the silent pride of a green sprout rising from the earth, because you are never too old to learn how to bloom one more time. Lesson 6. The power of stillness, when composure is the ultimate power. Try listening to the sound of silence encompassing your room right now. The world out there always teaches us that strength must be accompanied by noise. We strive to assert our position, fight to be heard, and brace ourselves to appear in control. Especially when young, we consider overbearingness as a manifestation of authority. But in the tolerant eyes of the Buddha, true strength never screams. He compared the strength of an awakened mind to a deep ocean. On the surface, waves may be agitated, storms may howl, But deep down at the bottom of that ocean is always an eternal silence, and nothing can shake it. That is exactly the state of equanimity. The ability to keep one's heart serene before all winds of praise, blame, glory, and disgrace. I want to tell you about the journey of Nun Tenzin, a woman who spent 12 years practicing in solitude in a freezing stone cave in the Himalayas. The nun faced hunger, the harshness of snowstorms, and absolute isolation. Many looked at her and thought she was enduring an arduous battle. But when asked what she feared most during those 12 years, Nun Tenzin did not talk about wild beasts or death. She said, "What I fear most is losing my own compassion. Do you see?" The nun's strength did not lie in her conquering the mountain or subduing nature. Her strength lay in the fact that she maintained a soft and warm heart right amidst the cruel coldness of reality. She did not need to prove anything to anyone. She simply was present with an unchanging mind. Engrave this sacred truth into your heart before sinking into deep sleep. True strength never needs to prove itself. True strength does not need to prove itself. In the twilight years, your dignity lies in composure. When you can smile tolerantly at an unintentional remark, when you can sit still in the dark without feeling lonely, and when you no longer have the need to control others to feel safe, that is exactly when you are strongest. Tonight, I invite you to perform an act of ultimate autonomy. Withdraw all needs to explain or protect your ego. Let yourself be as relieved as an ancient rock lying at the bottom of a still lake. The world may be agitated, but you are whole. Sleep in the aura of composure, because exactly in this wise silence, your soul is reaching a noble stature that the noise of the world can never touch. Lesson 7. Sturdy discipline. When perseverance is the confession of love, motivation is like a summer thunderstorm. It strikes powerfully, making us feel we can move mountains and fill oceans. But it also dissipates as fast as it came, leaving us in initial disappointment and laziness. At this age, if you still rely on momentary emotions to act, your soul will forever be a boat, drifting according to the weather. Buddhist wisdom gives you a much sturdier anchor, which is mindful perseverance, also known as awakened discipline. In Eastern wisdom, discipline is not a dry imposition. Discipline is actually a sacred rhythm. Look at the beat of your heart or the tidal rhythm of the ocean. They do not wait to feel inspired to operate. They are present because that is the nature of life. I want to tell you the story of Mrs. Susan, a 72-year-old woman living in a peaceful small town. Her whole life, Susan always dreamed of rewriting a memoir for her children and grandchildren, but she always procrastinated because she felt too tired or uninspired. She waited for a push from heaven to start. But 10 years passed. The paper remained blank. Until one early morning, after hearing a teaching about diligence in Buddhism, Susan made an almost ridiculously small commitment. She did not promise to write a chapter. She only promised to write exactly one paragraph every morning, after drinking her first cup of tea of the day, even if that day she had a backache, even if her mood was gloomy because of the cloudy sky outside the window, or even if she felt she had nothing to say, she still sat down, took her old fountain pen, and wrote exactly one paragraph. Do you hear the sound of the pen nib gliding on the paper surface? Those silent musical notes rang out steadily for 365 days. A year later, Susan placed her hand on a thick, complete, and radiant manuscript. She did not finish the book by an explosion of emotions. She finished it by the rhythm of her soul. She told me, "It turns out, strength does not lie in a fire blazing once. It lies in the smoldering warmth that never goes out." Dear friend, engrave this sacred truth into your heart. Discipline is not strict control. Discipline is exactly love made visible. Discipline is love made visible. When you love yourself, you maintain discipline to sit still in mindfulness every day, even when the mind is storming. When you cherish health, You maintain discipline to walk 10 minutes every afternoon, even when your legs want to strike. You do them, not because you like to, but because you know your soul deserves to be cared for with absolute loyalty. Discipline at this age is exactly a sanctuary protecting you from chaos. It helps your nervous system find reassurance in a steady rhythm. Tonight, I invite you to make a small promise for tomorrow. Do not choose a grand goal that makes you feel afraid. Choose a small candle that you commit to lighting every day with awakening. Exactly this silent perseverance is the most authentic proof of a courageous spirit. You do not need to do extraordinary things. You only need to do ordinary things with an extraordinary and rhythmic heart. Sleep in the fulfillment of someone who has mastered the beat of their life, knowing that true peace does not lie in giant leaps, but lies in every sturdy and steadfast step on the chosen path. Greetings. Our journey of consciousness tonight has gradually closed. We have passed through the arrows of suffering, relied on the island of stillness, built the sanctuary of discipline, and learned how to let go so the heart can be expansive. Old age is not a retreat in weakness. Old age is exactly the most brilliant harvest season of awareness, where strength no longer lies in a loud voice, but lies in an unshakably still mind. Take a deep breath. Bring warmth into your chest, and ask yourself, what am I still gripping tightly that I am willing to set down tonight? If these sharings brought your soul a little warmth, please help me spread this light with a like button and subscribe to the channel. That is how we together light the lamps of awakening amidst the long night. Before sinking into rejuvenating sleep, I invite you to leave a comment. I choose stillness as a silent commitment to yourself, wishing you a long night of peace, as weightless as the sky clouds, and an early morning waking up radiantly like the dawn. Goodbye, and see you again in the next journeys of awakening.